Carlos Verdona, a winner at the Dauphiné 4 years ago, comes to Italy in triumph and takes the first big stage in the Alps. Carlos Verdona blasted away early on that final climb and was never seen again.
Stage 16 and a first big day in the mountains. 5,000 metres of climbing on the cards, heading out from Veneto towards a finish in Trentino. 4 categorised climbs, 3 of them Cat 1 climbs, and a first summit finish of the 108th Giro Italia. A day for Egan Bernal and Ineos Grenadiers to attack, for Isaac Del Toro to prove his Grand Tour winning credentials, and perhaps for Simon Yates to challenge him in second place. Primož Roglic under pressure to make up time in the general classification, and at the start, filthy weather conditions and cold, heavy rain. Lorenzo Fortunato setting out on the hunt for yet more King of the Mountains competition in a classification that he is completely in command of. The flag dropping on time, and straight away Josh Tarling getting underway, and up the road in a 6 or 7 rider break. Mads Pedersen trying to get a counter-attack across the road, but then disaster for Josh Tarling, crashing out on a roundabout in the wet road and being forced to abandon the race. The move went on without him, and through the first intermediate sprint, 6 riders, including Wout van Aert, sweeping up the first sprint between them. But behind that, an 18-rider group was getting itself organised, including 3 Astana riders, and Lorenzo Fortunato was one of them, the King of the Mountains with an uncanny ability to seek out the moves that count. Over the top of the first of the 4 categorised climbs, it was Lorenzo Fortunato who picked up 18 further points, and Primož Roglic, unseen by the cameras, crashing in the company of Richard Carapaz and forced to abandon the Giro d'Italia. Then on to the first Cat 1 climb of the day, and Fortunato adding a further 40 points to his tally. 58 so far on a very successful day for Fortunato. The final intermediate sprint won by Dries de Bont from the breakaway ahead of Wout van Aert, as the remainder of the breakaway started to relay together to hold off the chase. Fortunato still stamping on the pedals on the Santa Barbara second Cat 1 climb, but behind that, EF Education Easy Post were changing the dynamic in the GC race and starting perhaps to set things up for Richard Carapaz. Juan Ayuso put into difficulty at the back. Michael Storer and then Max Poole attacked briefly off the front, and that put Egan Bernal off the group of favourites, temporarily at least. As Storer and Poole continued to work together, they gained a 10 or 12 second advantage, and as things calmed down a little, Egan Bernal managed to winch his way back into the group of favourites. Some brave riding from the Colombian, Pello Bilbao though, at the front of the breakaway group, driving the group on to the top of the climb, where Lorenzo Fortunato picked up another 40 points. UAE Team Emirates then in control of the GC group as they descended towards the foot of the final climb, and at the front of the race it was Yanis Voisard of Tudor Pro Cycling who opened up an advantage, but he was being chased by the Astana duo of Scaroni and Fortunato in the company of Jefferson Cepeda. Wout van Aert, picked up by Simon Yates in the GC group, did a big turn at the foot of the final climb, and when he stopped, Giulio Pellizzari attacked from the group of favourites. At the front of the race, Christian Scaroni attacked, went through the Red Bull kilometre ahead of his teammate and of Jefferson Cepeda. And in the GC group, they waited for the next attacks, which came from Simon Yates, followed by the Maglia Rosa and by Richard Carapaz. Derek G bridged across to that group, and as there was a lull in the action, Richard Carapaz attacked and went clear, Derek G then going after him. Instantly, Isaac Del Toro was on the wheel of Simon Yates. As Carapaz continued to gain time, Isaac Del Toro was dropped then by Simon Yates and Michael Storer and losing time on GC. Carapaz blasting up the road, Bernal picking up the wheel of the Mexican further behind. Carapaz getting across to Giulio Pellizzari and continuing to make gains on the road in the general classification.
And the smile breaks out. Christian Scaroni, the handshake is there, and finally it has become clear what is going to happen at the top of this climb. They come over the line together. Watch the wheels. Who gets to the line? It's just Scaroni who wins the stage by a whisker ahead of Lorenzo Fortunato, a Giro stage winner at last.
Overcome by emotion, Scaroni, a Grand Tour stage winner for the first time in his career. The two riders congratulating one another on a brilliant day for Astana. Pellizzari finishing in third place, made it an all-Italian podium on the stage. And then Richard Carapaz battling against the clock, perhaps even for the Maglia Rosa, stopping the clock and waiting to see which groups would come over the line. Egan Bernal in the company of Damiano Caruso and Michael Stora, and then all on his own, Isaac Del Toro in the Maglia Rosa, crossing the line, just defending the jersey, but a lot of his margin had been erased by that attack from Richard Carapaz. Christian Scaroni popping open the champagne corks in the sunshine. Scaroni the winner ahead of Lorenzo Fortunato and Giulio Pellizzari on the stage. Isaac Del Toro still the Maglia Rosa, but with a massively reduced advantage. 26 seconds to Simon Yates, 31 to Richard Carapaz, with Derek G moving up to fourth. The Maglia Ciclamino still firmly in command of the points classification. As well as Lorenzo Fortunato taking a huge amount of points in the blue jersey, leading his teammate Christian Scaroni by a substantial margin. Del Toro in white, still 4 minutes and 7 seconds ahead of Antonio Tiberi.